We started like last week.
Okay.
Verse 2 of chapter.
Caitanya-bhagavata, Chapter 1. Namastri Kalasatyaya Jagannatha Sutaya Cha Sa Vrityaya Saputraya Sa Kalatraya Te Namaha. O my Lord, you are eternally existing in the past, present, and future, yet you are the son of Jagannath Mishra. Offer my repeated obeisances unto you, along with your associates, your sons, and your consorts. Oh boy. So we're in the deep stuff of Caitanya-bhagavata, Chapter 1. This is not an easy read. Getting into the technical stuff, it looks like the first, what is it, the first 12 or 14 verses of the Chaitanya Charitamrita are the auspicious opening. Okay, I'm the new guy here. Hello? Yeah. Am I on the right verse? Text 2, yes. So, yeah, the first several verses are big, long purports. I don't know, what's the idea? Do you want to just read stories, or there's going to be deep stuff? We're going to lose everybody that's not locked in. Okay. I'm in the midst of a controversy. What's the idea? Just read some stories? So. I don't only read the part, right? And some stories also. The idea in one sense is to mix something, because this version is about on its own. Then usually you put something that yeah. Only one time, because then you don't know all the problems. So I'm okay with it. You wanna... This is going to be really, yeah. The Bhagavatam is in such a good section here. Yeah, okay. So, changing horses midstream, changing books mid-plus, and this is such an exciting part of the Bhagavatam. Read the verse. When Prabhupada decided to start translating 10th canto, it was so exciting. The news got out in February 1907, and he was in Bhubaneswar. The temple then was just a straw hut, and devotees were sleeping in the room next to his. It was just a straw wall, and they heard him translating the summary of the 10th canto. which begins a short description of each chapter of this 10th canto, is as follows. The first chapter, which has 69 verses, describes Maharaj Parikshit's eagerness to learn about the incarnation of Lord Krishna, and it also tells how Kamsa killed the 6 sons of Devaki because of his fear of being killed by her 8th child. So the devotees heard that through the walls, and whoever was the first to hear it, he woke up the others. Now let's translating the 10th canto, because the plan was, he said, I'd already translated, I've done the Krishna book, I don't know how much longer I'm going to live. I think I should do the 11th canto and 12th canto first, so we have the Bhagavatam done in some format. But when they heard Prabhupada doing this elaborate commentary on the 10th canto, we felt like Prabhupada's going to live. He's going to be 100. Do you remember that, Dharma? It was just such happy news. We felt like Prabhupada's going to be with us. He's going to finish the whole Bhagavatam. And as the chapters came out and the volumes came out, we were getting little samples of some of his purports. They were sent by devotees that were working with him, or those who were on the book team transcribing. They would send us a little purport, and the temple president would read it out loud, where he says that Krishna has taken birth in the womb of the Hare Krishna movement, and if the leaders follow the principles, if all of the members follow everything strictly, guaranteed that we're going to be successful. We just felt so empowered by that. So, summary of the 10th canto. He gives a brief description of each of the 89 chapters of the 10th canto. The devotees just sat there listening to it. Wow, Prabhupada's doing this. And he's not like rushing through it. Each verse, each chapter, he gives a little chapter introduction. So he's given an introduction to the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. And in each chapter, he gives the introduction to the chapter. And then, I believe it's the first chapter, he gives additional notes. Yes, several pages of additional notes for this chapter. And so the section that we're in of Vasudeva explaining all of this science to Kamsa, who is just a rasabojnik, use the Russian word, a rogue. What would be a Spanish word for a rogue? Rogue. Prabhupada uses that word all the time. Bandito. Rogue. R-O-G-U-E. Just really awful person. Who has no principles, who will just take anything from you. In one of his prayers to Kamsa, Vasudeva addresses him as Dinavatsala, one who is compassionate to fallen people. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who takes, anytime someone criticizes Krishna, Vishwanath takes those words and turns them around to make them into glorification. So he does the same thing when Vasudeva is speaking to Kamsa. He says, Vasudeva addresses Kamsa as Dina Vatsala, which we could say it means you are so cruel that you would take a vatsa, calf from Dina, a poor person. A poor person who has nothing but this calf, and that's the only hope for the future for this person. He has a cow. You are such a wretched person. You'll take the calf away from that guy. Dina Vatsala. Yes. Picaro. What does that mean?
That means probably he uses also rascal. Rascal.
Rascal, yeah.
Yeah. This also
Picaro. Okay, thank you. Picaro, Rasboinik, rogue, and Prabhupada, he is just so disgusted with politicians. He's lived through World War I, World War II, the division of India and Pakistan. He's seen dead bodies piled up, with people fighting over some temporary ideology. He is completely disgusted with that idea of people getting behind some man with some man-made ideology and fighting over it. We say this is right, and then you say, no, this is right. And we can't make any kind of concession. We can't make any agreement, so we just attack each other. And winners, they get it all. And the losers, they die. And so this is all stirred up by politicians, picaros, rasboinik, just for their own benefit. And they don't really care about the people that follow them. All they care is they follow me, and they'll do what I say. And once they're done with them, they can just discard them. Later on, Kamsa is going to be described. When Akrura goes to Vrindavan to get Krishna and Balaram, Nanda Maharaj greets Akrura, sits him down, gives him a nice reception after the long journey, and then they start talking. So how are things in Mathura? Of course, we understand that nothing can be good when you have a leader like Kamsa. Such a man takes care of his citizens in the same way that a person who is raising animals to kill them and eat them, he only cares about keeping the people alive so that he can harvest them. He really has no feelings for them. Just like a person who keeps animals to be sent to the slaughterhouse doesn't have any feelings for those animals. His only feeling is, oh, they're getting big. There'll be a lot of meat on that one. I'll get a lot of money in the market for it. That's their only feeling. They have no compassion for the animals. So the leaders have no compassion for the people. They only see us as a commodity. So this is the kind of person that Vasudeva is speaking with, and and in these additional notes, he talks about that verse, that this is the medicine, Nivritta Tarsha Upagiyamanas. In text 4, the word upagiyamana is used. Nivritta Tarsha Upagiyamana. Who will chant the glories of the Lord unless he is a devotee? Therefore, Nivritta Tarsha indicates the devotee and no one else. There's somewhere in there it says, this is good for everyone, this works for everyone, hearing about Krishna is the medicine. And then Prabhupada says something really interesting. He says, this works for everyone. Everyone means all humans, whether one be a man or a woman or something in between. It's interesting that he puts that in there. I don't know if if that's Prabhupada's own opening it up, or if it was from, because in that section he's mentioning all of the different people that are commenting on this. Viraragavacharya, Vijaya Dwaja, all right, so here we go. Now we're in text 39, and Vasudeva is speaking this philosophy to, we won't go through the verse too deeply, I'll just recite it. There's a lot of tension in this scene. This is real similar to Bhagavad Gita, where you create this whole tense scene, and you've got all this suspense. Is Arjuna going to fight or not? He's got a good reason not to, and Krishna is giving him good reasons to fight, but we can understand Arjuna doesn't want to fight. What's going to happen? So you've got this whole suspense. And then while all that suspense is going on, they're speaking this really high philosophy, which puts a lot of energy into the discussion. Why is he saying this? Is Arjuna really hearing this? It looks like he is. And so here it's the same thing. You've got this Hikaro with the sword up in the air, ready to sling it down. If you ever use a machete, you pick it up. Sometimes you lift it up high, and it gives you a little more swing when you come down. At least in the painting, he's got his hand up in the air. But anyway, hand is back, arm is back. He's ready to swing and cut off Devaki's head, holding her by the hair. Hand is back, he's ready. Like when someone's going to punch you, they go back and you know it's coming. And if you don't have any defenses, it's like, oh no. I haven't been punched since second grade. So I'm not talking from recent experience. Anybody here been punched recently? No, that's good. We live such boring lives. You ever been punched, Dharma? For some people, it's a regular occurrence. Just by my little brother when I was a kid. Okay, maybe after second grade. Maybe a little later, but it's not an adult life. But these are Kshatriyas, they know, they're trained, like when they see that movement, they know what's coming next, and they know how to prepare for it. Vasudeva, he sees that, and he knows he's not in a position to physically stop him. So all he can do is try to talk calmly, ease the situation, and so he uses all kinds of flattering devices. Starting with text 37, my dear brother-in-law Kamsa, you are the pride of your family. Great heroes praise your qualities. How could such a qualified person as you kill a woman? Especially your own sister, and especially at her marriage. So he gives several things. First of all, you're the pride of your family. Everyone's proud of you. How can you do this? This isn't going to bring fame. Krishna uses the same technique in Bhagavad Gita. Keeps on addressing Arjuna, O son of Kunti, O scion of Bharat. Keeps mentioning his family name. You are the pride of your family. How can you disappoint them? One who takes birth is sure to die, for death is born with the body. One may die today or after hundreds of years, but death is sure for every living entity. Okay, you're going to die. Just like Virgapati said. friend of mine was with Brigupati, and this devotee was eating dates, and he said, "I really like dates. Would you like a date?" And Brigupati looked at him and said, "You know, you know what happens to people that eat a lot of dates? Every one of them dies." It was a joke. Um, it was a joke. You could take it in so many different ways. Eating lots of dates, it's not going to keep you from dying. Anything you do, you could say that about anyone. You know, people that sit in folding chairs, every one of them dies. Eventually. So Vasudeva Sangha said, "You're going to die. This isn't news. You're going to die some way. Is it worth disappointing your family, ruining your reputation, to kill someone else, to prolong your life? Who knows how you are going to die at some point." And then now, today's verse, he gets into when the present body turns to dust and is again reduced to 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, the proprietor of the body, the living entity, automatically receives another body of material elements, according to his fruit of activities. When the next body is obtained, he gives up the present body. Okay, that was yesterday's verse. And it's kind of interesting. He says, when he gets the next body, then he gives up the present body. It was interesting. He's saying, when you get the next body, that's when you leave this body. And then he gives an example in the next verse. Anyone know what it is? When you get the next body, you leave this body. It's not like you leave this body and you're nowhere for a while, and then you have your next body. He gives 2 examples in the next verse. And when I read them, you're going to say, "Oh, yeah, right." That could be. When you leave one room, you're going into another room. I think Prabhupada does use that example. But here Vasudeva uses 2 different examples. And as soon as you hear them, you're going to think, "Oh yeah, I've heard this before." Anyone? It says, as a worm is crawling along on a vegetable, on a plant, reaches up, finds the other leaf, and then moves to that leaf. You ever see that? Of course you have, yeah. Once in my hat, there was some worm crawling around on the brim, and it just kept going around and around in a circle. And somebody said, "Put a tulsi leaf in the middle." That worm just kept crawling around and around. Put a tulsi leaf in there, so you could circumambulate tulsi. And then he gives another example. When you're traveling on the road, you rest one foot on the ground and then lift the other. So you don't lift the other foot until the first foot is down. So now you've got something to think of while you're walking. Buddhist meditation, they have a walking meditation. I don't know how that works, what they're doing, but each step is like, one meditation is, I am aware that I'm putting my right foot down and I'm lifting my left foot up. And it's just kind of a mantra like that. I'm aware that I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. I'm aware that I am alive. just an awareness. So to be aware that we are going to have our next body before we leave this body. I've read this before, but today I'm noticing it in a different way. Okay, y'all ready for a purport? It's not a very long one. And Prabhupada brings up the deprogrammers in here. That was also something really interesting in this time period. Purport. Shri Sri Radha Rasa Hari Ki Jai. This is the process of the soul's transmigration from one body to another. At the time of death, according to his mental condition, the living being is carried by the subtle body consisting of mind, intelligence, and ego to another gross body. When higher authorities have decided what kind of gross body the living entity will have, he is forced to enter such a body, and thus he automatically gives up his previous body. Dull-minded persons who do not have the intelligence to understand this process of transmigration take for granted that when the gross body is finished, one's life is finished forever. Okay, here's where Prabhupada gets very pointed. Such persons have no brains with which to understand the process of transmigration. At the present moment, there is great opposition to the Hare Krishna movement, which is being called a brainwashing movement. But actually, here we go. Prabhupada drops a bomb. But actually, the so-called scientists, philosophers, and other leaders in the Western countries have no brains at all. The Hare Krishna movement is trying to elevate such foolish persons by enlightening their intelligence so that they will take advantage of the human body. Unfortunately, because of gross ignorance, they regard the Hare Krishna movement as a brainwashing movement. They do not know that without God consciousness, one is forced to continue transmigrating from one body to another. Because of their devilish brains, they will next be forced to accept an abominable life and practically never be able to liberate themselves from the conditional life of material existence. So that was Prabhupada's counter. When he was given an obstacle, he would fight. And when he was given another obstacle, he would fight even harder. His whole life, he was fighting. And so many obstacles were put in front of him, and he just kept fighting. He never got tired. And the more obstacles he got, the more fiery he became. When they had the court case against the Hare Krishna movement, and he was talking with Adi-khanda, who the whole court case, because he was heading up the New York temple, he was the temple president, and so they filed a case against him. And Prabhupada said, here's what you tell them. What was, he said, here's what you tell them. You tell them. You say, we are brainwashing. We say, you have no brains to wash. We are a brain-giving movement. You people have no brains. You don't understand the smallest thing about who you are. We have to teach you this step by step. And you dare to call us brainwashing. We can tell you have no brains whatsoever. So that's why that works into these reports. That's why this is just such an exciting. There's so many contemporary things in this 10th canto, these purports. And he got all the way through 13 chapters of the 10th canto. And it was just so good when when these books came out, and let's see, what is this one? 1977, 20,000 copies. This is this is one of the first. This is the first printing. This should be preserved. When this came out, we looked at the paintings. First of all, we looked at the picture of Prabhupada. When a new shipment of books came, we'd just tear open the box and look at the picture of Prabhupada there, and the paintings. Look at this. There's the demigods praying at the ocean of milk. We'd never seen. These were fresh new paintings. Let's see, who did this one? This looks like Muralidhar. And this looks like Parikshit. And here's the scene that we're reading about. Vasudeva, Devaki, Kamsa. So there's Kamsa. He's got the sword ready. It's like, someone gets the gun, they take the safety off, and you hear the click, click as they, whatever they're doing, pulling the thing back or whatever. It's ready to shoot. Yeah, all of these paintings, it was so good. And then, when we got to read it and we saw Prabhupada's talking about us. He's talking about the deprogrammers. And then there's this whole build-up about how Krishna Katha, hearing about Krishna is so powerful, and then we get into the story a little bit, and then get deep into this philosophy, like, oh boy, this is like Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada's not rushing through it either. The entire world is being misled by such fools and rascals. He's giving a lot of social commentary. This purport ends with, there's one more sentence I didn't read. How this transmigration of the soul takes place is very clearly explained in this verse. And then the next verse, Svapne yatha pashyati deham idrisham. Having experienced a situation by seeing or hearing about it, one contemplates and speculates about that situation. And thus one surrenders to it, not considering his present body. Similarly, by mental adjustments, one dreams at night of living under different circumstances, in different bodies, and forgets his actual position. Under the same process, one gives up his present body and accepts another. So just as when you fall asleep and you dream of a situation, you have left the situation that you're in, and the same, that's how you accept another body. Interesting, prapadyate, you surrender. You experience a situation by seeing or hearing about it. Okay, you hear about something, let's say somebody hears about living in Miami. Or you come to Miami and you see it, you contemplate on it, and you speculate about what that would be like. And thus, at some point, you surrender to living in Miami. Not considering his present body. And he's speaking all this kind of stuff to this guy what kind of emotions is Kamsa feel? He's just heard the news. The 8th child of your sister is going to kill you. So what's Kamsa feeling? Fear and anger. I think that sums it up. Anything else? And he's just kind of pushed everything else aside. So that's kind of like what we're reading about here. He's feeling fear and anger, and he's surrendered to it. The word prapadyate is in the it's in the last line of the Sanskrit. Prapadyate kim api yapasmrita. Apasmrita. Smrita means to remember, and apasmrita. He's forgotten his present body. So he surrendered to fear and anger. And so Vasudeva is pointing that out. We hear about something, and we contemplate it, and we surrender to it, and we forget about our present situation. So that's how we transmigrate from one body to another. Abhini Vishta is fully absorbed, manoratena, by mental speculation. Chaitana, he whose consciousness, Vishta, by whatever has been experienced by seeing with the eyes. Shrutabhyam, and by hearing a description of something else. Manasa, by the mind, anuchintayam, thinking, feeling, and willing. Prapadyate, surrenders to that situation. Kim api, what to speak of. He, indeed, apasmrita, experiencing forgetfulness of the present body. Transmigration of the soul is very clearly explained in this verse. One sometimes forgets his present body and thinks of his childhood body, a body of the past, and how one was playing, jumping, talking, and so on. When the material body is no longer workable, it becomes dust. Quote, for dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. Something Prabhupada learned at Scottish Churches College. They had Bible classes there. When I was in India a few weeks ago, I met someone in Rishikesh who taught at Scottish Churches College. And he was a pretty young guy, looked like he was in his 30s. He said they were very proud that Prabhupada was an alumni of Scottish Churches College, Kolkata. Okay, so you're dust, and when the material body is no longer workable, it becomes dust. But when the body again mixes with the 5 material elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, the mind continues to work. The mind is the subtle substance in which the body is created. As we actually experience in our dreams, and also when we are awake in contemplation. The mind is the subtle substance in which the body is created. As we actually experience in our dreams, and also when we are awake in contemplation. One must understand that the process of mental speculation develops a new type of body that does not actually exist. If one can understand the nature of the mind, manoratena, and its thinking, feeling, and willing, one can very easily understand how from the mind develop different types of bodies. Okay, did you follow any of that? Yeah, it's what we think we become. Our thoughts create what we become, either in sleep or wakefulness. If we think about something long enough, we find ourselves doing it. Okay, the 5 elements, return to the 5 elements. Okay, think about your dead body lying out somewhere. Let's just say you die somewhere far away from other people, so it's not going to be cremated or buried. Just consider how the 5 elements within your body are going to return to the totality of the five elements. The air within your body is just going to come out. The water will be dried up and return. Will join the clouds, come down as rain. Earth aspect of the body will return to the ground. Fire. There's the fire in the body. It'll just return to the totality of fire, however that works. But the mind, while all of that is going on, the mind is already off on another body. If one can understand the nature of the mind and its thinking, feeling, and will, one can very easily understand how from the mind different types of bodies develop. Okay, so he gives that. Now he says, here is what you do with this information. The Krishna consciousness movement, therefore, offers a process of transcendental activities wherein the mind is fully absorbed in affairs pertaining to Krishna. The presence of the soul is perceived by consciousness, and one must purify his consciousness from material to spiritual, or in other words, to Krishna consciousness. Okay, we've heard it over and over again, but now we're hearing it in a different way, with Kamsa with his sword up, ready to kill Devaki, and with all of that suspense and tension. Wherever the mind goes, your body is going to follow it. Your subtle body, your gross body. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement offers a process of transcendental activities wherein the mind is fully absorbed in affairs pertaining to Krishna. So what kind of activities would those be? I'll read the sentence again. The Krishna consciousness movement offers a process of transcendental activities wherein the mind is fully absorbed in affairs pertaining to Krishna. What kind of activities would those be? Just about everything we do, when you think about it. Book distribution, taking care of the deities, cleaning the temple, managing accounts, managing all affairs. So Prabhupada has worked hard to set all of this up. So we have things to keep us busy. So the mind will be fully absorbed in affairs pertaining to Krishna. So you can think of that while you're doing your service. I'm engaged in affairs. My mind is fully absorbed in affairs pertaining to Krishna. The presence of the soul is perceived by consciousness, and one must purify his consciousness from material to spiritual, or in other words, to Krishna consciousness. That which is spiritual is eternal, that which is material is temporary. Without Krishna consciousness, one's consciousness is always absorbed in temporary things. For everyone, therefore, Krishna recommends in Bhagavad Gita, Manmana Bhamad Bhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru. One should always be absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. One should become his devotee. One should always engage in his service and worship him as the supreme great. And one should always offer him obeisances. In the material world, one is always a servant of a greater person. In the spiritual world, our constitutional position is to serve the supreme, the greatest, Param Brahma. This is the instruction of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Jivara Swarupaya Krishnara Nityadas. Okay, he goes on, saying, this is the highest form of yoga, but it looks like you want to move on to other affairs to absorb your mind in thoughts pertaining to Krishna. So we'll open here, or we'll close here, unless you've got a question. Caitanya-bhagavata ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Let's see, which one?
One screen.